Cool, and welcome to this session. I hope you're good and you're ready to talk about pipelines for SAP integrations. I do think it is really an interesting topic, so please add your comments into this. It will be fairly quick, so let's see here where it started up processing. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. So what I wanted to talk with you is this new pipeline concept from SAP about making it easier for customers to manage asynchronous message processing. But let's get started. And this is just my views on it. We have been exploring this for the last month in time. We don't have any custom use cases on it. We have some customers that are starting to explore it, but the idea here was to give you some kind of an idea about what's going on. Is this possible, and what it does? It will likely adopt and change, but I just wanted to share a little about what I see this and why I see it as something interesting. Please, if you want a deep dive session, more details on it, ping me and we can talk about what is going on. I hope you see everything and everything is good. Then just raise your hand or write that it's good. Okay, perfect. Good. Let's see here. So yes, what is pipeline? So pipeline, as I see it, is an open source concept from SAP, and I put it in quotes because it's not on GitHub or any other place, but the idea that you can take these iFlows, you can modify them, run them yourself, make your own versions of it, is kind of the open source approach. You don't need to pay for it. It's just a part of the integration suite. Obviously, you cannot really use it outside of an integration suite landscape, but I guess that's not really the point of this. The main goal here is to separate the processing logic, retry, and the transformation and delivery to end systems. I've seen this a lot of customers where they have implemented some kind of a solution to handle these things and trying to make it easier for developers to develop on the SAP integration without having to focus on processing all this logic. And if you build that into all the iFlow, it becomes a little challenging and too much content going on. Actually, I also got light on, which is probably better. Yes, it's controlled or tested by SAP, and it is a part of the migration documentation. It is not only for migrations, but obviously can be used for other scenarios also. If you have comments, your ideas, if you want to dive deeper into this, put some comments in and we'll cover those. Why is it good for customers? It is this thing about making it easier for you to develop your integrations. So and then it is about managing the queues that you have. I think as default you have like 30, you can then change it to 100 and then a bit further up. But obviously there are some limitations on this, and you may need multiple different tenants, and then this is about ensuring you don't use too many queues. It's built and maintained by SAP, so you don't need to build anything on top of it. I did present this to some other customers or users, and there was also like, okay, it is typically SAP a little over engineered. There is definitely some steps in it that may sound a little too much, but on the other hand, that would also be the part that actually adds the flexibility that a lot of customers would end up needing to do. And I do see that the benefit if customers adopt this is that if you have consultants that go from place to place, it becomes a lot easier to manage because everybody would be using the same process. And yeah, you can use this. This does not have anything to do with the Figaf tool. I do think that the Figaf tool have a lot to add into this process, but that's yeah, something else. It's not for B2B. It's not for synchronous interfaces, and there's probably a lot of scenarios you have where this does not apply. But there's also quite a large number where it does apply. Questions, comments, put them into the chat, and then we'll try to cover them. So this is what it looks like. This is the beast I tried to convey here, and I think it becomes maybe a little little difficult to see everything that is going on here. So the main focus is that we have some inbound processing where you have methods that takes an IDOC, put it into a queue. Then you have a flow that takes this message processing and put it into a new queue. And here you can have a conversion going on. You can then take another, it goes into a lot of queues between these. You have a receiver determination where we'll go and say, okay, based on this sender receiver we are delivering, where should this be sent to? Then it will determine that this needs to go to system A and B. And then when you have that, you can then go in and say, okay, for system A, these are the different interfaces that needs to be called here. It'll be processed by another queue, and then once it reaches the outbound state, it will then call your business logic flow and also deliver a message in this outgoing flow. And there is going to be a lot of discussions about how many of these flows would you actually need, because it may not always be the case you want to have inbound conversion. I've seen scenarios where it just went up here directly to the receiver queues. I could also see some benefits of just going from the receiver queue directly to queue number 4. So this is kind of discussions we need to have about how to use this operationally. But the idea is that you take a message, persist it, convert it, persist it, figure out where it needs to go, persist it, figure out which flows it needs to be processed, persist it, and then send it to that flow and using process direct, because then it can always fall back to one of these different scenarios. So the main focus of where this is being configured, this is configured in the partner directory. And the partner directory have some benefits. According to SAP, it is that if you're deploying an iFlow, it has on deploy and deploy state, which may make it the iFlow unstable in that period of time, and that may be the reason why you want to use the partner directory for it. You can also do XSLT directly from this, and this just simplifies the process of deploying these things. And I think this is the partner directory is one of the challenges with this scenario. You need to have a good framework for managing and updating these scenarios. So here you have an example of a receiver determination where we can see it's just using a standard XSLT. We have a receiver determination. It goes to these, and you can, in this XSLT, can add all the normal XSLT problems and queries that you need for this to work. Yeah, there is definitely going to be some discussions going on about what's the inbound process. We are currently working on some of these ideas and trying to explore these scenarios. We have not really found the best way to do it yet, and this separation between conversion, generic adapters, custom adapters, and obviously you will be delivering a number of these shared adapters, and then you will create your own custom adapter, for instance SFTP, or queues that you need to fetch out data in. Questions, comments, put them into the chat, and I'll try to cover those also. Good. Migration of flows, and I think this is one of the key areas of this where it makes sense, because you can then take your existing PI ICOs from the operation mappings and interface processing, migrate those, and then you can just plug them into the receiver determination, and then they'll be processed. This is an example of one of the flows that we have created with the Figaf tool to handle these scenarios. But you can also use the SAP templates or create your own scenarios for it. I think the main focus here is just that you use the process direct connection from the source system, and then send in data for this. So one of the cool things about this is in a PR world, it was difficult getting new queues. In here, you just create a new copy of all of these iFlows, configure them with a new queue, uh, put in a new queue name for all of these, just add a hi or a master data, whatever you want, and then you have a full flow of all of these scenarios where it is using master data or whatever is relevant. So I think this makes it easier to have different scenarios. You would need to have multiple different generic processes, or you will create some kind of a flow in the iDoc adapter that would separate these things. One of my first questions when this was, hey, I thought that the GMS would cost each time you put messages onto it, but as I understand, this is not the case. The only thing that you're charged for is the outgoing messages. And also when I look at my report, this is also the same thing I see. If you were charged for 4 messages for each message you processed, it would probably not be a good idea. As exactly once an order is not possible with this flow, maybe, well, I think that it could be some scenarios where it would make sense, but it is not a part of the scope for this one. And yeah, there's something about how you restart these messages. So if a message fails, it goes into a dead letter queue, and then you can move that into the main queue and start processing these messages again. Good. It's not a well, the solution is complete, but there's obviously a lot of things that is missing for this tool to work. So obviously it needs to be tested on real data volume for customers using migrated scenarios and being able to see how this performs compared to a PI scenario. I think the big area is the partner directory. There's no UI for it. It's really a lot of manual work using API calls, and not really ideal, but anyway, it is a way to get started on these things. You need to make a lot of XSLT transformation. You need to link these things together, and I guess also a challenge is the Edge integration cell does not support partner directory, as I understand. I couldn't imagine that it is somewhat, or it is possible to fix this and find a workaround for this, but I don't know where that is in the SAP roadmap. I think there's also something about the monitoring, being able to take a specific message via API calls and restart that one and seeing what is in such a message. A lot of things to consider. Let's see how this pans out and what can be done here. As I talked, we are also adding a lot of content on this. So right now we have some of the outbound scenarios going. We have started on migrating logic for the incoming scenario. So you can take a file content converter, plug it into this flow, and then we need to see whether or not we need to do 2 or 3 1 or 2 flows for this. But this is some ongoing discussion. I think the part that would make this really operational is also the partner directory API being able to expose this in an easy to maintain functionality. We also need to look into how we can transport these scenarios, because if you're transporting an source iFlow, you also need to transport the 2 other objects, that is so the 2 XSLT and the partner configurations for this, and we need to find a way that we can handle those scenarios. I would also like to have it in a virtual setup where customers are using the Figaf tool to reuse a dev system also for QA. I really would like your input in this. Is this something you want to see more on? Leave a comment here, and I will try to cover, go into some more details on this. I think there's a lot more that needs to be crystallized, but I hope that, and please share if you think this is okay, that you see the benefits of this. You can see it works out. It's it takes a little while to get started with and figuring out how this works and what can be done for it. So I did create a blog post on it. We'll just share this one in the comments. So this is a blog I created on this topic and showing you how to get started, how you can actually explore it. There's also links to SAP's original content on this, etc. So whether or not this is going to be for, so yes, I think that was all I wanted to share. This content, yes. So whether or not this is going to be something for just migration or a current or a new design, I think actually that there's a lot of cases where it would simplify the process. So yesterday I was on a call with a customer and said, hey, we have this 3-layer architecture where we had a receiver part, we had a message processing part, and we had a outgoing part. Those kind of scenarios could be easily replicated into this, and thereby you get all of this operational. And I think that is the part that makes sense, that you just have one way of working with this, if that makes sense. But there's obviously the where you're defining cloud native, where it makes a lot more sense to specify it together with these scenarios. Other questions? Or David, if that covers everything, otherwise, yeah, do share. But yeah, it is a big framework, but it is fairly easy to use. If you use the blog post I have, it takes you whatever 20 minutes to explore what it works, and if it would be useful, you obviously need to see, and it is. Then you get into the more complicated part about how do we actually explore these scenarios. Other questions? Cool. But yes, I really hope you have enjoyed this. I also recommend that you check out the Figaf tool. It is quite useful, and if you are in a migration scenario, we have a lot of components in the free migration edition that enables you to migrate a lot easier, a lot of scenarios. And also, if you want to use this, we will be adding this into hopefully our April release. I've seen the first flows that were processed, and this just makes it so much easier. So thanks for attending. I hope you have enjoyed the session. If you have questions, comments, want to learn more, just ping me or write in the chat, and we'll see if we can support you in those cases. Cool. Thanks for attending. And we'll turn it off and end the stream.